Hey everyone, thank you very much. I always appreciate it. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. Welcome to another classic movie review. This is my review of a Disney animated film from 1940, Pinocchio, based on the 1883 story from Carlo Collodi. This was directed by Norman Ferguson, T. He, Bill Roberts, Jack Kenny, and Wilfred Jackson. This is the story, of course, of the little wooden boy that was created by a guy called Geppetto, and the Jiminy Cricket little guy that is supposed to be like his conscience, basically. And the movie begins with Geppetto creating the puppet that becomes Pinocchio. He names Pinocchio, and Jiminy Cricket just kind of pops in out of nowhere at the beginning of the movie, and kind of he's kind of a tramp looking kind of guy, kind of like this homeless little cricket that just he comes into Geppetto's place and starts to squat in this place basically without Geppetto even knowing it, basically. And before you know it, after the puppet has been finished, there is a little blue fairy lady, very pretty little blue fairy. Well, she's little at first, then she, turns into this giant woman, and she gives life to the doll. Saying it out loud is a little creepy, actually. Actually, there's a lot of things in this movie that I think are going to be creepy for little kids that haven't seen this classic yet. Watched this recently with my daughters. My 14-year-old daughter was very creeped out by a lot of the things in this movie, which is one of the reasons why she said she doesn't really like to watch this movie. And I'll get to those things later. So I personally have always enjoyed this story, and even though this was a film that I grew up with as a little kid, it has been decades since I have watched this. Having said all that, this is a movie that I used to watch as a little kid with my sister because she had all the Disney movies on VHS back in the day. And so I always liked this movie, but I haven't seen this movie in decades. I mean, a very long time since I was a young tyke. And so I recently gave this another watch, just kind of out of curiosity because it's been so long. And last year I really enjoyed the version that was made by Guillermo del Toro. It was one of my favorite films of last year. Pinocchio ultimately wants to become a real live boy, of course, and in order to do that, the Blue Fairy tells him you need to be brave, truthful, and unselfish, and only then you can have that wish come true. And this movie has a few great, really nice classic Disney songs in it. You have the part where Jiminy Cricket sings the Wish Upon a Star song. There's also the scene where Pinocchio is singing to a lot of people, putting on a show. There are no strings on me, trying to emphasize to the audience that this puppet is not like the other ones that have strings and all that, all the little marionettes and stuff. And so, after Geppetto sees that Pinocchio is alive, which I think in real life would play a little differently than it does in this, because I think in real life somebody would be really freaked out, but not Geppetto. He's just happy to have a little wooden boy son, basically, because all he has is the little goldfish and the little cat Figaro. And so, very cute little animated cat. He gets a little distracted, and somebody has the chance to come and talk to Pinocchio when they notice him walking by holding an apple, walking to school. And it's this fox and this cat. And the cat is, kind of a mute, but kind of reminds me of the one of the hyenas, the one that's always like laughing and smiling, the dumb one in The Lion King. And the fox, his name is Honest John, and he basically kind of tricks Pinocchio into not going to school. Pinocchio ends up in the hands of a very stereotypical Italian character by the name of Stromboli, who is this guy who kind of runs this show. And after Pinocchio, does the number and entertains a bunch of people, and of course Stromboli kind of breaks in the dough, he realizes what a cash cow little Pinocchio is, as Jiminy Cricket calls him. And so when Pinocchio says, "I gotta go," Stromboli's like, "Nope, your ass is mine, bitch!" Sticks him in a birdcage. All of the voice actors in this movie do a wonderful job playing the characters. Of course, you have Dickey Jones as the title character. You have Cliff Edwards as Jiminy Cricket. You have Christian Rubb as Geppetto, and Evelyn Venable as the Blue Fairy. And later on in the film, after Pinocchio is lucky enough to escape the Italian guy Stromboli, once again the fox comes along and kind of sends him astray again, once again, not having learned his lesson the first time. Pinocchio's very, naive. He's only been alive for a little bit. Pinocchio is kind of lured to this place called Pleasure Island, which kind of reminded me of the place in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the 1990 film, where, all the kids are hanging around, smoking cigars and playing games. While he's at Pleasure Island, Pinocchio makes friends with an older boy who kind of looks out for Pinocchio a little bit, but at the same time, he's a very bad influence on him. Shows him how to break windows and vandalize and smoke cigars and play pool. I don't know why pool is considered a bad thing, but it shouldn't be. Pool is freaking fun. But yeah, this kid's name is Lampwick, and later on, something starts to happen with all the kids where they start to realize, which I gotta admit is kind of creepy, when all of a sudden you see a bunch of donkeys, and you realize that there's something about these donkeys because they seem like they want to say something, but they can't. When I saw that scene in my recent rewatch of this movie where all the kids start to turn into donkeys, I kind of had to question it for myself just a little bit because I didn't understand why. But my daughter just looked over at me and said, it has to do with magic, just so, okay, magic, fine. Because I have to admit, when I first saw the fox talking to the cat earlier in the movie, the fox known as Honest John, and I just noticed, okay, we got a talking fox and he's wearing clothes. What world is this? But again, it's a Disney movie where there's a little homeless cricket that can talk. So, again, my daughter just looks over to me and says, "It's magic, Dad." And I'm like, okay, I guess I just go with it. So you just kind of go with it, I guess. I guess it's the story. But so yeah, the donkey thing. I can understand it being a little disturbing. If the scene in the movie where Lampwick starts to turn into a donkey was done in live action, very much like in the vein of something like An American Werewolf in London, it'd be some creepy ass stuff, let me tell you. And so I kind of get now why my daughter was always kind of hesitant to revisit this movie. Maybe that's why she didn't like it back in the day when she did watch it much younger. And so I guess she was a bit traumatized by it. So she kind of forced herself to watch this movie in the recent rewatch that we had. But yeah, I still enjoyed it. I think one of the saddest parts in the movie for me is when Geppetto realizes that Pinocchio hasn't been back for a while and he goes out looking for him and it's raining and Stromboli has Pinocchio in his carriage in that bird cage and Stromboli just kind of passes by as Geppetto is standing there and you're just kind of looking at him going, he's in there, but of course, he's not meant to find him yet. But then later on, Geppetto gets himself swallowed by this huge whale called Monstro, I think. And that's a pretty, I think, grim moment, probably for some little kids maybe to experience. When you consider Pinocchio's pop being swallowed by this whale and being held captive inside its mouth, and that coupled with, the whole donkey sequence, I can see why some little kids will find this very disturbing. Maybe that's why this movie is very enjoyable for me, even on my last rewatch. I'm just that kind of guy. I enjoy dark things, and even if it's in animation, I think I appreciate it more because it is supposed to be kind of meant for kids, but they still have something in there that I can enjoy because I enjoy kind of darker type stories. And then, of course, there's the classic thing with Pinocchio's nose growing every time he tells a lie, and the more he lies, the bigger it gets, and then little branches and twigs start to pop out of it. And then you get a little birdhouse at the end. It's really kind of silly, but it's one of those things that really shows little kids, I think, the importance of honesty. And Pinocchio learns some very valuable lessons in this movie. I honestly believe that all of those lessons are still very important for little kids, but not just little kids, big kids like myself that every now and then need a little reminder about, being honest and truthful and maybe even brave every now and then. And Pinocchio overall is a great story, and it's a classic animated film with beautiful animation. I believe Pinocchio is a four-star animated Disney masterpiece, and this is a movie that you can find on Disney Plus. For me, I have to have my hard copies, and I've had this DVD for a long time because I got it for my young ones a long time ago. So this is a copy of the DVD, and then you can see there Geppetto, Pinocchio. If you're into this kind of thing, if you're a new viewer, hit the bell, subscribe, and look out for more classic movie reviews. If you're a returning viewer, thank you very much for your support, and thank you for your comments. If you do leave a comment, if you want to like, I appreciate it. If you want to share, I appreciate that because I'm sure it helps out the channel a little bit. And just thanks for watching. Take care of each other. God bless. Peace out.